Have you ever wondered how your childhood trauma could be keeping you stuck in your adult life? If so, you're going to want to watch today's video. Hi, I'm Violet Rainwater, and welcome back to the Awakening Show. I'm so excited for today. Today we have a special guest, Darcy Collins. She is a nutritional therapy practitioner, and she is the founder also of Spectrum Wellness Solutions, where she helps women reach their highest potential through a changed, healthy lifestyle. And Darcy has been a huge help to me in my own healing journey. And so I'm so excited to introduce you. Darcy, welcome to the Awakening Show. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I am so happy that you are here. Today, we are going to be talking about how our childhood trauma or even intergenerational trauma shows up in our adult lives and keeps us stuck. And before we dive into that, I'd love for you to share a little bit about yourself and your journey. As you say, you have a PhD in healing yourself, which I love, healing me. And so share a little bit with our audience about you, your journey, and what brings you here today.
Thank you. So I grew up in a small town, and in that small town, there were many opportunities to be in nature. And so I learned about grounding and being out in nature and how that made me feel at a very young age. But then we moved into a larger town, and in that larger town, there weren't as many opportunities. And I had a season of life where I was confronted with lots of life changes. And one of those life changes included my mom being diagnosed with breast cancer when I was in junior high. And that made me aware of how short life could be. My mom survived, but it got me thinking, what could I do differently so that that doesn't happen to me? I didn't know where cancer came from. I didn't know if there was anything I could do to protect myself, but it made me aware. And so as the years went on and I was introduced to different ways of learning how to stay healthy. When I was 19, I was introduced to the book, The Sugar Blues. And I learned about how sugar could be devastating to the body if you overdo it. And just as the years went on, got introduced to a lot of things that helped me to be more aware and stay pretty healthy. But I didn't understand stress. And I didn't understand generational stress or the trauma that had affected me through those seasons of my life. And when I was in my early 50s, I was in a very stressful, unhealthy situation, and I got very sick. I couldn't breathe. And so that started my evolution of awareness of digging deeper and learning how to heal myself.
Wow. And now you bring all this knowledge and wisdom to all of your clients and now our audience too. I love that it's full circle for you.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned something, you said that you noticed early on about grounding. And, it's interesting because I've been like, how you start focusing on something and it starts showing up everywhere. Grounding is what's really been coming up for me, having grounding mats and going outside and grounding and looking back. Anytime I was around trees, even when I was a little girl, I knew that I felt different. And I didn't know why or what, but I knew that it was different than how I normally felt. And my history is childhood trauma on top of trauma, on top of trauma, on top of trauma. And, long term living in, poverty, being an immigrant, being from the Soviet Union during the Cold War, there was a lot of beliefs that were established that didn't serve me and was very much fear-based.
Yes.
I was wired to live in fear. And I didn't know that. And part of that fear isn't even mine. From my experiences, part of that fear is the fear that my father felt as he was running for his life from Hitler's army and how he spent his most formative years starving and terrified. Like, even though I physically wasn't there, what I've learned from epigenetics is that on a chemical level, like my stress response was altered because of that. And so this whole point of telling you this is, but yet when I am in nature and
Mm.
around trees and I'm grounding, what a transformational effect that is. And I think that's what today is all about. It's about, yeah, these things keep us stuck. And I'd love to hear your perspective on childhood trauma and how it shows up in our adult lives. But more importantly, today, I want to focus on the transformation of it, like what's possible on the other side and what are some tools to help, the audience get there.
So I focus at my clinic on women with stress-based symptoms. In the community, my center is known for weight loss, but that's because most women won't come in for wellness. They will come in for weight loss. But once they meet with me, I explain to them my journey and how I can help them to reduce the stress in their life that can then help their body to better heal and to optimize. And that's really my goal, is to help women to reduce that stress so they can be more resilient. And that's been a big journey for me. We're always learning how to do it better and how to help ourselves to optimize. But I just love sitting face to face with women and telling them a bit of my story so they understand, and then encouraging them that regardless of the trauma that they've experienced or how they are stuck, or if there's fear-based issues that they have, that the more resilient they are, the more they can overcome that. So I help them with that resiliency.
And do you find for childhood trauma survivors, in my experience, I didn't have resiliency.
Mm.
I didn't know what it looked like because I would instantly go into survival mode. And so I didn't even give myself a chance at being resilient. I would instantly curl up like this, right? And
Right.
so, from a like healing perspective, what does the other side of that look like? Like what is possible? Like if one instantly goes into survival mode, now, let's say they've been on their healing journey, what's possible on the other side? I would love to know your thoughts about that.
The mindfulness that it takes to keep yourself on the other side is the strength and that resiliency that you need. That's a tool. So for me, I have been blessed with working with some of the top leaders in neurological brain health and trauma. I worked with Dr. Daniel Amen at the Amen Clinic, and I have followed just about everyone that has neurologically based tools to help us to overcome. I had lots of trauma like yourself. I remember as a young girl thinking, why aren't crises around me affecting me as deeply as other people? And it was because I would cut myself off from
Mm,
feeling. But
yeah.
when you get in that fight or flight mode or that freeze mode and you're stuck, it's hard to get out of that. But as I found tools and I felt led to all of these different tools that have helped me, I actually got to do the brain scans at Dr. Daniel Amen's clinic, the SPEC scans that show what's going on inside your brain with blood flow. But from that information, you can then make better choices. There's also a technology called Saraset, and I was blessed by that. I got to work with the founder of that company, and he just passed. God bless him. He left behind a legacy of helping people to calm their brains so the body can heal. But
Mm,
there's technologies that you can use, but then there's also wonderful techniques that you can do for yourself, like you were saying, grounding, getting out there in nature. For me, it's the ocean. I lived in Northern California. I used to say the first half of my life, but I'm too old to say that anymore. So from high school on, I have been close to the beach. And there is nothing that makes me feel like I
yeah.
feel when I'm walking barefoot on the sand and looking out at that beautiful ocean. But you can find those things anywhere you
Yeah.
are. Find
I
your
love the
happy place.
mountains. There, as long as you're in nature,
Yeah, find your happy place and
um,
go there. And if you're not in nature, we have the technology to immerse yourself in a beautiful site at our fingertips. So
right.
you can find beautiful pictures that you can just look at and meditate and just think
Yeah.
about. And when you think about it, you go there.
Well, and I think to your point, and by the way, I just realized like I totally went off. I was saying, I was asking if you think that from childhood trauma, that's like part of the consequences is we don't have resilience because our stress response has been altered, is what I was trying to say. And like, do you agree with that? Like, do you agree that if you've had
Yeah.
childhood trauma, like resilience is just not something you're born with, you have, it's only something you can build. Like you can't borrow it, you can't buy it. You have to build it. And that's, where the tools come in. And so you said something about things that help us calm our brain.
Mhm.
And I think that is the root. The root solution is the brain and how to use it to work with it. Whereas when we're wired to be fear-based, we're like literally poisoning the brain on a daily basis. Every time we feel fear, it's like poison to the brain. And then, eventually with more poison, and brain, mind, body connection, here comes cancer, here comes all these other things.
Mhm.
So, I think that awareness of how like our brain works and what is it that can calm our brain that helps so much. And you have the supplements that you gave me, like what is it? One is energy. What's my favorite one? The grape one?
So you drink happy juice.
Happy juice.
Yes.
Happy juice.
So
But
happy.
doesn't that affect the brain?
Oh,
Because I feel like it calms my brain.
so this is what happened to me. When I couldn't breathe, we eventually figured out that it was stress related. And I went on in a 10-year journey of learning how the gut, the brain, and the central nervous system are all connected. And it's becoming more mainstream now that people are starting to learn about the gut brain connection. Dr. Emran Mayer wrote a book that I read from cover to cover about how our digestive tract houses a lot of microbes that affect every aspect of our being. And if we are not balanced in our gut brain connection, it can cause a lot of issues. I couldn't breathe. And what we eventually figured out was, and Women's World last November did an article about my story because they thought that I had asthma. So I had an asthma inhaler that never helped me. And what we ultimately diagnosed was that I didn't have enough stomach acid. And everyone thinks that when they have acid reflux that comes into the esophagus, causes inflammation, can cause pain or discomfort. For me, my stomach acid was getting into my airways and causing breathing issues, coughing, and eventually where I wouldn't talk for a while until my inflammation calmed down. But once we determined that it started in my gut, I was able to address my digestive tract and get that on balanced. And I did that through what I learned through the Nutritional Therapy Association and my training as a nutritional therapy practitioner. And once my digestive tract was balanced, my brain was balanced better. And then I went through technologies that helped it to calm even more. And it's, for me, I call it my evolution of awareness because I just didn't know. And
Right.
I was doing all of the medical route to try and get my brain and my emotions balanced, and it wasn't working. And so I needed everything balanced: gut, brain, central nervous system. And there are so many options that you can use, so many technologies, essential oils, foods, grounding,
Happy juice.
meditation, happy juice. So happy juice was created by a company that started 20 minutes from where my clinic is in Irvine, California. And they're Amari, the mental wellness company. And Dr. Sean Talbot created a plethora of tools that you can use to help to balance your gut, your brain, and your central nervous system. And Happy Juice is just one of those. So there's a product that helps with the gut, not just balancing the gut, but helping to heal the gut. And then there's an energy drink that you love. And then there's Edge. Edge is for mood, motivation, and metabolism. And it's
Some
botanically
upstairs. I haven't tried it. In fact, I'm going to go get some after this.
so good. But you can feel it right away. It's
Yes, I do. It calms me. Like it's an instant calming but energizing at the same time, which is, like I think it calms me in sense of like the stress goes away and it sort of energizes me because I don't have all that noise in my head.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so share with us we shared happy juice, but share with us three of your top brain calming techniques.
Breathing, breath work, but I
Yeah.
do breath work along with other things that I do. So I have a pulsed electromagnetic field therapy mat that I use. It's
Okay.
Cloud with a K, company named Tropics created the mat with Dr. Kafka, who is a brilliant pioneer in this technology. Last year, my father was dying. And every day I would turn on the balance program on my cloud mat. I would lay on it for 15 minutes and it would take me from a stress state into a calm state.
Mm.
And so the cloud mat is one of my favorites. And my clients, when they go through my circuit, we do red light therapy, whole body vibration, the cloud mat, and an infrared sauna.
I've
And
tried it. It's really relaxing.
yeah, and all of those together, they walk out after 60 minutes and they feel like they spent the day at a spa.
Oh, I love that. So it's like a complete nervous system reset.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, Darcy, share with us, for people that are just started on this journey, what is something that they can do, because sometimes it can feel like a fire hydrant coming at you. So if they're newer on their healing journey, like what is one thing that they can do to gain awareness or a tool that they can start with that's really simple? Like what are some small steps that somebody could take?
The first thing that I did when I started my nutritional therapy education was an assessment, and it's called NutriQ. And I offer it to all my clients for free. And I identified where my issues were that I needed to address, and my upper GI, that's where I was off the chart. And so I knew that's where I needed to focus. Once those symptoms started to come down, everything else fell into place. And so knowing what you're addressing is very important. We also offer customized blood panels so people can take a look at the chemistry. So we address it with an assessment of symptoms and also with the blood panel. You can do that with your doctor. I have references I can refer people to who I use. But I think for me, the most important step that I took was the assessment, knowing exactly where I needed to
Well,
focus.
that's where you kind of have to start, right? Like if you don't know what's wrong with you, you don't know, you can't start. It's like lack of awareness, right?
I call it whack-a-mole. So at Chuck E. Cheese, there used to be this game, and you held this baton in your hand,
Yep.
and these little
Yep.
came up, you
I love
whack.
that game.
And I think that's what a lot of us are doing out there. We see the influencers on social media. We go to our doctor and they
So
give us a
true.
prescription, and we see all these things and we don't know where to start.
Yeah.
We have to start with you.
Yeah.
What is most eating you? And for me, when my doctor couldn't figure out why I kept having these cyclical symptoms where I couldn't breathe, and I would have to stop working. And I had a very lucrative career, but I was in a very stressful environment. And I kept having these symptoms. We couldn't figure it out. We tried medications and tests and everything. And when I did an assessment, that if you were 120 or more on this assessment, you had toxic stress. My number was 142.
Wow.
And I do that assessment with every single client because I want to know how I can best help
Right.
them.
Right.
Because
It's
I
your
can't just,
starting point, right? It's
yeah,
their starting basis.
yeah, I can't just say, take this pill, do this thing,
Because
and
it
you're going
doesn't
to
work
feel
that
better.
way. Yeah.
Because everyone is biologically
Different.
different and so unique. And so each individual has a different program. Sure, there's so many wonderful tools and techniques that we have, but they have to be tailored to the individual.
That's so true. So how does some people, like if anyone listening, they want to get this free evaluation or they want to start working with you, Darcy, what is the best way for people to find you?
So my website is, well, I have two, so they can go to either. One is my name, darcycollins.com. My
Okay.
business is Spectrum Wellness Solutions, but it's shortened on my website. It's Spectrum Wellness OC for Orange County.com.
Okay.
And there's a form you can fill out. It gives me your contact information. You can even on from my website, you can request a phone call with me. And you can just schedule a discovery call. We can talk about what your symptoms are. I can send over the assessment and we can go from there.
I love it. Well, I'm going to be getting an assessment as soon as we're done with this. That's the next thing I'll be doing. This is right in alignment for me. So thank you so much, Darcy. And thank you guys for joining us today. Make sure you follow Darcy and get this assessment so you can get a really good look at what's happening with you, like where you're at today, where you desire to be, and she can give you that framework to help you get there. Make sure you come back next week. And if you enjoyed this video, hit the subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss any more videos. Come back next week because I got another special guest coming your way. Thank you guys.